show, we spoke with Arizona Democratic gubernatorial candidate Katie Hobbs, and now her GOP opponent, Kari Lake, takes center stage.
Yes, joining us now. Look who we got here. Friend of the program, ABC Chief, ABC News Chief, Washington Correspondent,
whatever it is,
Jonathan
Chief
Karl.
He's the chief of something, and it's important.
It's so weird to have you on the show without the backdrop with all your Emmys. That's how you usually are on the show.
Exactly. I wanted to bring them, but they were.
Well, this is a rising star in the Republican Party. You got this chance to sit down and see why so many people think she is such a star.
Look, Kari Lake is an absolute star of the MAGA movement. One very big supporter, big ally of Donald Trump told me she is the future of our movement. We talked about a lot of her policy positions, including what she wants to do at the border. You've put forth a very aggressive plan on the border. And one of the things you've talked about is finishing the wall, the parts of the wall that weren't completed under President Trump. How does that work, given that so much of that border area is either tribal land or federal land? What do you do about
Well,
those
hopefully
areas?
you've read through my policy, and we're going to, on day one, issue a declaration of invasion. And we're going to take back control from the federal government of our border. They have ceded control to the worst people in the world.
What does that mean? So you're going to literally you're going to say out with the border patrol, and you're just going to take over?
No, we're going to work around them. We're going to work around them. We're going to put people in key areas of the border, and we're going to stop people from coming across. We're going to work with the legislature to redefine what abandoned federal property is. Right now we have millions of dollars of materials to build a border wall sitting on the border, wasting away, and we're not using it. We, the taxpayers, paid for that. And so we're going to take that back, and we're going to start constructing the wall.
How much is it going to cost you? I know you have some of the material that's still there, but what's your estimate on how much that's going to cost Arizona
It varies.
taxpayers?
Depending on how it's done, it varies. It can be anywhere from $250 million to even more than that. But we're going to find a way to do it.
And you're...
There's about 20 to 27 miles to be completed, and we're going to get working on it. And it'll be really interesting.
There's a lot more that doesn't have a wall, though. There's like 300
right.
and some miles. What do you figure that
My
just doesn't...
border plan calls for finishing President Trump's border wall project, which is about 27 additional miles. There are going to be challenges, and we'll work with the tribes, but we will not allow drugs to be flowing through anywhere.
Lake was particularly eager to talk about her education proposals.
I'm really concerned about the quality of education we have. We're thrilled we have ESA for All, which is basically we fund the student and not the system, the school system. That's how our tax money is. We pay tax money.
The money follows the student.
Yeah, we pay taxes into our education to fund the student.
Yeah.
And so we're thrilled that we have education freedom here. We're a state that's been a pioneer in that. Our families can choose what school they want to go to, and now they can get the money and take it to that school. If it's a private school, if it's a parochial school, if it's a charter school, a micro school, a home school. Our families have choices finally. We're putting the power back into the family where it should be. But we want to additionally do a dual track education. After 10th grade, our students get to decide if they want to go off to college, that's great. They continue along that path and they take college prep courses. Or if they want to take trade skill training, vocational training, or career certification right there in high school so they're ready for the high-paying jobs that are out there.
As governor, and I know you'd have to work with others on this, but as governor, would you seek to change the election laws? And specifically, would you look to limit early voting and mail-in voting in Arizona?
I don't know exactly how we'll do it, but we will secure our elections, restore faith in our elections, make sure our elections are honest and transparent. And I will work with the legislature tirelessly to make sure that happens. I want every voter, whether they be Democrat, Independent, Green Party, Republican, to know.
I assume everybody wants that, but specifically early voting and mail-in voting, which you've been very critical of. President Trump's been much more vocal and critical of. Would you seek to limit it?
I think, going back to when I first started voting back in the 80s, we had Election Day.
Yeah.
Our Constitution says Election Day. It doesn't say election season, election month. And we've watched as our election day has turned into election week and election weeks and now election month. And the longer you drag that out, the more fraught with problems there are. We just saw problems this week with Katie Hobbs, my opponent, who is incompetent, and that's not just my word. The Arizona Supreme Court called her incompetent in her duties as Secretary of State. She just sent out 6,000 ballots that went the wrong type of ballots to the wrong people.
Right, they only had the federal, but she was the one that pointed this out and says she's correcting it.
I don't care if she pointed it out.
But they are correcting it.
She went on to make a series of unsubstantiated claims alleging fraud in Arizona in the 2020 presidential election.
But just to be clear, the Republicans on the Board of Supervisors, the Republican governor, now the Republican candidate for Senate running along with you, the Republican Attorney General under Donald Trump, Bill Barr, all said, that the election was not stolen.
Okay. Are we going to sit and litigate this?
No,
I'm happy to do
just,
it.
I'm just wondering why they would all lie.
But you guys are obsessed. Well, we have a lot of corruption in this system, and they don't want. I think a lot of people who were responsible for that election know that there were rules broken and laws broken, and they don't want to admit fault. Okay.
Lake isn't backing down from her false claims of a stolen election, but she doesn't want to talk about election fraud as much as she once did.
And I certainly hope that we're going to talk more than about elections today, because I sat here today to talk about my policies.
Well, we've been talking about a whole bunch of other things besides elections, but since you brought up...
But I find it funny
since you brought up... I didn't ask about 2020. I just asked
I do find it funny that
voters.
the media thinks I'm only talking about elections. I'm talking about a lot of things.
But let's be completely clear. You actually brought it up, not me. I asked you about the rules and about early voting and if you would change the rules. I didn't ask you about 2020.
And I want to
you brought it
explain
up.
to you why mail-in ballots can be fraught with error.
But let me ask you why it is that you have not said, or maybe you'll do it now, you have not said that you will accept the certified results of this election even if you lose this election.
I will accept the results of this election if we have a fair, honest, and transparent election. Absolutely, 100%.
So if you were to lose and you're ahead, but if you were to lose and you went out and you had all your appeals, they went through.
As long as it's fair, honest, and transparent.
And certified. I mean, who's going to determine that? Are you going to determine that, or what?
Oh, it looks like my opponent might have to determine that.
Well, she is the Secretary.
That's an interesting conundrum, isn't it?
This is a woman who is still an election denier, who is still ahead in many polls and could win this statewide race. What does that tell us about maybe not just a place like Arizona, but where we are in our politics, that this is still potentially what's going to happen with an election design?
What it tells you, TJ, is that these lies have taken hold. And certainly with the Republican voters in Arizona, the whole slate here claims falsely with no evidence that this election was stolen in 2020 in Arizona. It wasn't. I have a report here. This is a 98-page report from the Maricopa County Elections Department. These are 4 out of 5 Republicans run this commission, and they looked at every single allegation. There is no evidence. In fact, they said of 2.6 million votes cast, they found possible problems with 100 votes. So there was no fraud in Arizona in 2020. There was nothing anywhere near to the extent to change the election, but a lot of people believe it.
People believe things that they want to believe, don't they? If it doesn't go their way. Jonathan Karl, ABC Chief Washington Correspondent, thanks for joining us here in Phoenix. This is fantastic.
Good luck. You're going to be on this week on
Sunday,
we're
going to be right from here on Sunday, and we've got a heck of a show.
It's really good to have you. Look forward to seeing those Emmys behind you on Sunday.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.